This video is brought to you by Amber. Amber keeps your EV on the road longer, offering seamless protection with no long-term contracts or upfront costs. Learn more at the link in the description and use code SPEC5 for 5% off. Howdy folks, welcome back to another Out of Spec Renew video, and today we are working on this Tesla Model 3. It's actually got a high voltage isolation fault, which it's looking like is probably going to be a cabin PTC heater. We're going to go ahead and investigate that and confirm that is indeed the issue, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with the repair. Alright, so like I said there, this Model 3 seems to have a PTC fault. Go ahead and hop in. Customer stated that they did have, prior to it developing this isolation fault issue. If I go ahead and put my foot on the brake here to try and start the car, the drive rails don't actually power up. We don't get contactors. Well, you heard the contactor there. They'll close and open a couple times, and it'll basically just fault out. It's basically trying to pre-charge the system right now. So you can see it says faulted there. And if I were to go to battery, it basically is, it doesn't say it's faulted yet because it's trying to do an isolation check. It can tell that the isolation is low, and it's trying to see if it can get to a point where the contactors will close. But yeah, there you go. Eventually it faults. So we get BMS state fault. If we go to our actual alerts here, we get some low voltage battery stuff, of course, because the 12 volt battery died, and some of our windows and stuff lost calibration. But here you can see we've got our limp mode, external isolation. Yeah, that's just an E-fuse thing. Repeated isolation failure in drive, and another isolation failure there. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull the connection to the 12 volt battery. We'll disconnect our connector on the PCS, and then we'll go ahead and drop the bottom cover off underneath on the front of the car, and we'll check our isolation at the PTC heater. Alright, so I've got the 12 volt battery disconnected and our connector on the PCS undone. I'm going to go ahead and pull this bottom cover off and get to our PTC heater connector. But our PTC heater is going to be one of these connectors back here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and disconnect our PTC heater connector, which is this one right here. I'm going to pull this red tab back. There we go. This thing is stiff. So now what I can do is I can try and bring this connector around over to here. And we'll go ahead and check the isolation on it. Alright, so I've got my isolation meter here. On anything that's like a PTC thing on these, you want to run it at 250 volts instead of 500 volts because you don't want to damage any of that stuff if possible. I think that I should be able to just ground my negative side clamp anywhere where we've got a good ground. I'm just going to put it on the motor right there because this is a, well, yeah, so this is a ground shielded connector. And I'm just going to go to either one of these two pins, and I'm just going to hit test. Yep, and you can see we've pretty much got a dead short there. So that definitely indicates a loss of isolation. So that's our smoking gun there. What I'm going to do here is we've actually got a sort of an interlock connector on this side. I don't have a dummy plug to plug into this thing. And that is going to be where our interlock is at. So if I can get a little loop just to plug into here, we can fool this thing into thinking that the interlock circuit is closed. and be able to start the car without the isolation issue getting in the way of things. But I think we've pretty much confirmed that this is going to be our fault. Yeah. So I am going to go ahead and see about getting a PTC heater. I'll go ahead and quote the customer on that replacement. I'll see if they want to replace this skid plate too while I'm at it. And we'll see about replacing our PTC heater. Alrighty, it's a couple days later. We've got our replacement PTC heater in. I did end up sourcing a used heater, although this is actually the newest revision part number. So I suspect that this was a replacement in a car probably not that long ago. But what we are going to do is we're going to double check and make sure it's in good shape. So we're going to set our mega ohm meter to 250 volts there. I'll just go ahead and put that on the terminal in here. We'll hit test. There you can see we've got basically infinite resistance. I mean, we're over 4,000 mega ohms of isolation resistance there. Whereas the old one, we were down to, almost pretty much a complete dead short. We'll go ahead and test the other side as well just to make sure. And we're good on that one as well. So we're in good shape with our heater here. Unfortunately, I am still short on one component, and that is the there's a cover piece that goes on here after this gets installed. That's kind of a retrofit. You'll see when we take the old one out, but there's a piece that we have to cut out of the heater box to get the old one out, and then there's a new piece that bolts on in its place. I'm still waiting for that. Unfortunately, it seems like the shipping is taking forever on that part. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get this installed. We'll also end up doing the skid plate and stuff. The customer did want to address that stuff. And then the cover piece, what I might do is I might just put together kind of a temporary cover and then just have the customer bring the car back to put the actual cover on here in a few days when it shows up. This is their primary car, so they want to try and get it back on the road as quickly as possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and work on getting the old PTC heater out. Alrighty, so as you can see here, I've already pulled this carpet panel off the side. It's literally just pops in there, so you literally just kind of start up there at the corner and pull on it, and it just pops right out of place. But you can see our high voltage cabling there for the PTC heater, and there at the bottom, you can actually see the heater itself. This is its little ground cable, and this is that panel that we have to cut out to get the actual heater out. But there are a couple of other things that we're going to have to remove in order to get the cabling out of the way. I believe that we're going to have to remove the knee airbag as well as the plastic cover that lives up here underneath. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull that stuff out real quick, and then we'll see about actually getting this heater out of here. Alright, so I did remove the plastic panel that goes up here. The service manual does call for pulling the knee airbag, but I don't really understand why, because it's easy enough to access our wiring right there. We just got to peel the carpet down, and there's our grommet that goes through the body. So that's not too difficult. All that we have to do here now is I'm going to lift the car back up. We're going to disconnect all of the clips and stuff that hold the wiring harness to the body on the outside, and then we'll push that wiring harness through the grommet here, and then we should be able to pull the heater itself out. Alrighty, so we're back under the car here. This is, of course, our connector. We need to disconnect this portion of the harness here, which is for the interlock circuit. If I can push this red tab out, there we go. So that's unplugged now. We can just push that aside. And then we've got to unclip the harness here from these studs on the body. And I'm actually going to reattach this other one back down on top there. We'll go ahead and try to route this through like so. And then I've got one more way up here. Okay, so our harness is fully disconnected now at this point. Now the grommet is way up there. I don't think I can actually get my hand in to push that through from this side. Unless I can go through behind the motor here, but it's going to be tricky. I think I'm just going to do that from the inside, but now that this is loose, we should be able to pull that grommet out from the inside and then just pull this harness through the firewall. All right, so go ahead and just fold this sort of flap of carpet down right here. I've just got to pop this grommet out through the firewall. And now I should be able to just pull the harness through, assuming it doesn't get caught on too much stuff. There we go. So there's our whole harness, all pulled out there. Now we can see about disconnecting the rest of the stuff on the heater itself and pull that thing out. Alright, so I've come around here to the driver's side and I've also removed the carpet side panel here as well. We're going to go ahead and unplug our little low voltage connector here. That's pretty easy. And then we've got a couple of bolts to remove right here. I think that those are going to be M8s. So let me grab an 8mm socket. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pull out these screws. I also just noticed there was a little clip there that needed to be undone. I might actually need to grab a short socket on that, but I'm just going to continue doing this and then I'll join you guys back on the other side again. Alrighty, so back on the other side here, we're going to go ahead and undo this side. I'm just going to pull these fasteners out here. Alrighty, and then our last step here is we've got to go ahead and unscrew this ground. That just spins right off like so. I'm actually just going to put that nut back. Well, no, I'll leave it off. Whoa. Losing the light here. It's hard to find a place to stick it where it'll stay in here. I'm going to go ahead and move our high voltage harness out of the way. And at this point, I should be able to basically just pull down. There we go. So now that is fully disconnected. But as you can see, we can't pull it out because this panel is in the way. So this is what I was talking about before. This panel is molded in place on these cars when they're produced, but it's designed to be cut out. And then what the part that I'm missing is the piece that would replace it. So the piece that would replace it has this same little slot on the bottom that ends up here, and then it would have two screws that go right up here. So we're still waiting on that part, but what I've got to go ahead and do is cut this one out. So I'm going to take just a box cutter with a razor blade, and I'm going to carefully cut along the seam through that. All right, well that turned out to be a little bit more of a struggle than it needed to be. Don't make the same mistake I did. You actually want to cut on the inside of this inner rib. You don't want to cut between the ribs. You want to cut on the inside. But there's our piece that we removed. So now we can go ahead. We'll have to slide this up just a little bit, I think. Maybe. I don't know if I can get my hands in here with the camera in the way. I might have to peel the carpet back a bit further. I think so. I think I'm going to have to peel this carpet back in order to get enough clearance to get that thing out. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, things have escalated. I understand now why the service manual wants the knee airbag removed, because that's the only way to peel this carpet back. Otherwise, the top of this styrofoam thing hits it. So we've got all of that stuff removed and out of the way. Now we can finally get our heater out of here. So that'll just slide right out like so. And I'll probably need 2 hands to get that out of there. But I'm going to go ahead and get this thing out, and then we'll work on getting the new one in. All right, new one is going in here. If I can get it around the camera successfully anyways. There we go. My high voltage harness here is a little bit caught up on stuff. There we go. Just make sure our ground cable is out of the way there. And the rest of this should pretty much just slide right in. There we go. That wasn't too hard. I've just got to get the harness out of the way here. And then I can fold the carpet back down into position. So let me move the camera here. Get my light out of the way. And I think I can almost just push down on this. There's a little spot here in the corner that's pretty tough to get around, but yeah, there we go. Just gotta give it a little push. There we go. And now the carpet is mostly back in. I just have to put some clips and stuff back on. We'll get our airbag back into place. And we should have this back together pretty quickly. Alrighty, so I've got the heater bolted in, at least on this side. I've got the ground connected. And then what I've done just temporarily is I've put this plastic piece back on that we cut out. And what I'll do is I'll probably just put a piece of tape on it to keep it in place so it doesn't fall out until the other part comes in, because the customer does want this car back so they can drive it. But once I get that other part in, I should be able to just pull this carpet panel out and have that new piece swapped out in 5 or 10 minutes. So at least just to get the car back on the road for now, we'll just leave this in here temporarily. But now we've got to go ahead and get our high voltage harness routed back through here. So we've got that little clip that goes there. And then the harness kind of goes to this little hook here. I can push that up out of the way. We've got another clip up here. And then we've got one right up here. So that's all clipped in now. I fold just that flap of carpet down. This HVAC vent keeps getting in my way. Now we can just feed our harness through here. And hopefully it goes where I want it to go and doesn't get caught on anything. I'm just trying to push it almost straight down through the hole here. I can feel the connector hitting something, but hopefully that's not a problem. I'll just keep pushing. And there we go. So now that grommet, I've just got to get wedged into the hole here. That's a pretty stiff one. I think I've about got it. I actually went too far on that one side. There we go. I think I've got that in there. Now we can go underneath and route the harness back over and plug it in. All right, so we're back under the car here. We've got our harness for our heater here. I just gotta get it pulled down from up here. It might be caught a little bit on some stuff here, but I think we're okay. Yeah, there we go. Boom. So I'll just clip this onto these studs along the way. We've got one there. Got another one here. Let's see if I can get our harness reconnected to everything that I need it to be. I think I need to push this around up here. Got our interlock circuit that needs to plug into it. Dang, that's hard to push onto there. There we go. Okay. This interlock circuit connector is not wanting to play nice with me, but there we go. I think I got it. All right, our interlock circuit is plugged in there. I want to try and get both of these connectors reattached to this clip here. So they just sort of slide on like so. Can I get this one? There we go. Well, at least I thought I had this one. There we go. Now it's on. And then we've just got to plug that in, push our red tab into place. And now we're all connected down here. I think we're at a point now where we can probably start the car up and make sure everything's functioning the way that it should be. Alrighty, so we've still got some reassembly to do in the interior here, of course. But everything's connected. I did connect the low voltage connector on the other side there. So we're all good there. I think we're ready to try and restart the car. So we'll go ahead and reconnect our low voltage connector on the PCS here. We've got that. And then I've just had the 12-volt battery on this charger here. We'll go ahead and disconnect that. And we'll connect our 12-volt. I hear contactors, that's a good sign. And let's go ahead and hop in here and see what we get when this thing boots back up. Alright, I've got Toolbox open here, but I forgot. I'm so used to working on old legacy Model S that you don't get nearly as many options on the service screen in the car. But we actually have this clear isolation condition thing, which I assume we just need to unlock the gateway, which is, of course, foot on brake, right turn signal on. There we go. Now we're unlocked. Okay, so we do have to plug in with Toolbox because we need Service Mode Plus. So we'll go ahead and connect. Connecting, come on. It'll just take a moment here. There we go. So now we're in Service Mode Plus. And now, oh look, it even gave us more options. So now we can clear that isolation condition. So that's our alert that we had, repeated isolation failure in drive. So it's going to clear our isolation alert counters. And we cleared all of our isolation checks. If we go back to service alerts, now we just have window uncalibrated and our PTC version mismatch. So for that, we just need to do a software reinstall for a CAN ECU. So we'll just do our software reinstall. Should take, I don't know, probably 10-15 minutes or so, something like that. And then we should be back in business. All right, so while the car went ahead and did its update, I reassembled most of the interior here. And we've got our alerts pulled back up here. As you can see, we still have our 2 window calibration faults there. That should be easy enough to fix. We just roll it all the way down, hold the button, and then we'll roll it all the way up and hold the button. So there, our front one got calibrated. I assume the one that's uncalibrated is probably that one, since that one will do the same thing, just press and hold, and then back up. And there we go, so that one's cleared as well. We do have this coolant valve calibration issue. So let's see if we can fix that. Thermal configurations, nope. Coolant system. Coolant valve test. That might let us do a calibration. Okay, so we might actually have a problem with that 5-way actuator. Interesting. Let's go back to our alerts. Coolant valve, yes. Yeah, that might actually be a legitimate problem there. So that's another thing we might have to look into. But for now, I think we've covered all the major things that we wanted to do. I guess we should make sure that the heat actually works. So let's go ahead and just crank this all the way up. And let's see. Just go ahead and feel, make sure it starts to get warm. Perhaps. Oh yeah, I can already feel it starting to get a little bit warm here. Yep, that's definitely warming up. So I think we're good on our heater there. We'll just turn that back down whenever I think it was at like 68 or something. We'll just put that on auto. Sweet. Alrighty. Now we can go ahead and work on our other task, which is to fix that skid plate. Alright, I've got our skid plate here. This is actually a metal skid plate. It's even got foam backing on the underside, which is kind of nice, but this is just a thing that you can buy on Amazon. They're actually even cheaper than the plastic OE Tesla one. So, pretty good deal on those. I like using them because they're pretty solid. And, like I said, they're cheaper. So, we'll just get that slotted up into place here and try and get a couple of fasteners started in it. Let's see, I dropped one. There it is. Got some duct tape in our way. I don't think that screw is long enough. Worst part of that might be that we're kind of hung up on our metal, or on our plastic under panel on the bumper here. That's getting in our way. That's right, that one was kind of sad too. Yeah, that only just barely grabs in there because my threads are a little bit further in on the riv nut, so I'll have to grab a little bit longer fastener for that one. And then let's see, back here we've got a couple more. All right, let me see if I can get a little bit longer bolt here. All right, I got a little bit longer fastener here that I think should be just about perfect. If I can get it in there anyways. There we go, I think we're good. Sweet, all right, all that's left is a couple of fasteners that go up at the corners there. Now from the factory, there's just a couple of nuts that go in. But this thing comes with these sort of special, I don't know what you'd call them. They're like a deeper nut thing. Don't like these lock washers that they come with though, so let me see if I can find some flat washers that'll fit better. There we go, I found the perfect washers for these. Bingo. I think we're good there. Alrighty folks, well that's going to be a wrap for this one. Obviously we've still got to button up that extra little cover piece on where the heater actually goes in, but we can address that at a later date once the part comes in. Customer's pretty antsy to get their car back on the road, and I just kind of temporarily taped that old piece in there, and that should work at least for the next few days or week or whatever. And we do have that 5-way coolant valve calibration issue. That's probably going to be something that needs to be addressed in the not too distant future on this car. So it's possible you might just see this car again if we end up doing that work on it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the failure mode that occurred here with the PTC heater. Actually, I've got the old PTC heater right here. So of course, what we saw is that all of the actual heating elements in this had failed, and it caused an isolation fault. I mean, this thing was pretty much dead shorted to ground. And unfortunately, that's not too terribly of an uncommon failure mode with these if they get really bad. And it's kind of something to watch out for. Not necessarily just for Model 3 or Model Y or whatever, but really any EV that has a PTC heater like this. If they fail and start to go bad, if they get bad enough, they can cause an isolation fault like that. So if you happen to have a heater that doesn't really work properly, or if you've noticed alerts regarding the heater, it might be something that you want to take care of sooner rather than later so that the car doesn't leave you stranded like it did with these folks. But anyways, that's pretty much it for now. If you like seeing more repairs like this in the future, feel free to stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching.